Hi, welcome to Salted Hash, the show where we talk about security that matters. No FUD, no hype, just a little bit snark. I'm Famita Rashid, senior writer of CSO Online, and with me is my colleague Steve Reagan. Today we're going to talk about DerbyCon, incident response, and the future of passwords. And we're back. Hey Steve, how's it going?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So I know you just came back from DerbyCon. I'm hoping you're well rested. And I want you to tell us... Of course not. But tell us what you heard, what you saw. Tell me about DerbyCon. I've never been, actually.
Well, let me give you a little background. So DerbyCon is a kind of smallish, but yet a rather busy conference in Louisville, Kentucky. I think there was just over like 2,200, 2,300 people there this year. I mean, it was pretty packed. It's at the downtown Hyatt, and 3 tracks running all weekend long. Kind of a late start each day. Bourbon is the
very important.
Yeah, just free pouring. So what I did this week rather, while I was down there, was I talked to a lot of different people about the Equifax breach. I talked to a guy about surviving ransomware, which is a pretty big topic for us here at CSO. And I just had a lot of really productive conversations with a lot of different hacker types, from freelancers to established workers. And
Is it a mix of researchers? Is it a mix of professionals? Like who goes to DerbyCon?
So you got a little bit of everybody down there. You've got the researchers, like pure researchers. You got the academic types. You've got the red teamers for XYZ company, which I'm not going to name any of those companies because some of those people aren't allowed to talk to the press. But yet, hi, how are you? It's a good mix, actually. What I really like about DerbyCon is meeting all of the first-time attendees. So these are the ones who can't really go to like the big conferences out in Vegas or like the RSAs in California, things like that. But local regional conferences are certainly obtainable to them. So they go to things like DerbyCon and like B-Sites Knoxville, things like this. Right. And it's really cool to see their opinion and their take on things. So that's always fun for me. It's very, very enlightening, I think would be a good word for it. So let's see. I talked with Matthew Perry.
The actor? You actually met the actor?
That's actually the joke he uses in his slide. It's hysterical. So he is a administrator for a small law firm, and he survived 2 different ransomware attacks. And his story in particular resonated with me. And that is because last November, when I was in the studio, we did this thing to where IT gave me laptops and I destroyed them. And what we did was
very trusting.
Yeah, and they haven't given me 1 cent, so maybe they learned a lesson. The funny thing is, so what I did was I infected the first laptop with Locky, and then I used the second laptop that I also infected with Locky because why not both? And I recovered from ransomware on the second one, and we did an entire video. That's earlier before we started recording when I told you, sometimes that chair can hurt your back sitting at that desk. I sat at that desk for 7 hours recovering from Locky. That's why I know the pain of that chair. And so when I talked to Matthew, he has this maybe it's like a Southern gentleman's charm or something, but the way he told his story to me, just narrated it. It was flawless. It kept me enthralled. So he survived 2 different ransomware attacks, and the way he did so was backups. That's it. He has redundant backups. He tests them on a regular basis, and he was able to recover like that.
So basically, okay, it's locked. You know what? Get rid of it. I'm just going to start off fresh because I have backups.
Yes.
It's exactly IT at its basics, right?
Yes, it is. And that was the point of his talk. He was able to survive ransomware because he did the basics and he followed through on the basics. And the thing was, he just kept it really simple. He's got his backups are incremental. He checks them every day when he comes in. And because he works in a law firm, people are constantly needing to recover documents from backups because, they use forms. It's a document processing shop. So you're going to be like, oops, I saved the wrong file. Hey, Mac, can you restore that for me? Absolutely. Tick, tick, there you go. And it allows him to just stay up on things. But even if that doesn't happen, he has a system in place to where what he does is he just picks random files, restores them, and then asks the user, hey, is that legit?
Right.
And they tell him right then and there. So he has that backup process in place, and it's multiple tiers here. He's got on-site backups. He's got backups of those backups. He's got off-site backups. I mean, it's a whole system he runs through.
So he's not even just relying on like cloud, like, okay, I'm going to back up to the cloud. Like it's multiple backups of backups.
Funny story about the cloud. He doesn't use the cloud at all because it's a law firm. And they don't want to use the cloud because that means they would be putting their client's stuff in somebody else's system they don't have control over. So that type of risk was deemed unacceptable, and therefore they do not use cloud at all. Makes sense if you think about it, actually.
Yeah, now that you said, I'm sitting here, I'm saying, duh, of course that's not going to happen.
But there were two people in the talk that asked Matthew, why aren't you using cloud, as if it was some magical mystery cure. And the look when they asked that, he had that look like, really, kind of like the point of the talk was doing the basics. And when you try to rely on silver bullets, you're failing at the basics.
Right.
The cloud is great in some cases, but not all.
Right.
And just assuming that the cloud's going to magically solve your backup problem, well. That seems kind of counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the reason he has so many tiers is because the second ransomware attack he had to deal with, it didn't start on the user system. It actually started on his NAS.
Oh.
It literally targeted its backups first. And so that's when he realized, okay, I need to have a non-attached backup.
Right.
And so that's what he implemented. And the funny thing is, because he keeps backups off-site, even when it went after the NAS, he was still fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a gap in his program. And up until that point, he didn't realize it because that's just the nature of how you do things in IT. I mean, you're going to do everything the best you can at first, but there are going to be gaps. The trick is to understand when when these gaps present themselves, understand what they are, and then get them fixed.
So that the next time you're actually prepared to not have that gap.
Exactly. It's not neck breaking, but at the same time, it gets really frustrating when I talk to consultants and they're like, I tell these people what to do and they ignore me. And that's just, I don't know. It's mind blowing at times that, the basics are just often left ignored. I mean, one of the slides in Matthew's talk was KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And the thing was when he pointed out his backup thing, you just see like lights go on in the room, like there were heads nodding, and there were, and the best part was this was a stable talk, so it was only 30 minutes long. In 30 minutes, I think at least half that room got a great education in backups, and it made sense to them. Yeah. That's why I like to going DerbyCon. It's really easy to share information without all the marketing hype or spin behind it. It's just peers talking to peers.
And I think that's important when you're actually learning from someone who is in the trenches doing stuff, not someone who is a little bit removed, a business executive. It's like the actual folks. So you mentioned that you had a couple conversations about Equifax while you were at DerbyCon. Of course, we're all talking about Equifax. What was that specific conversation?
So I was trying to figure out the value of the data. Let's assume.
You mean it's not $10 a record?
No, far from it. In fact, let's assume somebody somewhere has all 143 million records, everything that Equifax claimed was breached.
I hope they have backups. Or maybe not. Maybe I don't want them to have backups.
I don't want to dogpile on Equifax. It's like that's the joke you don't take because it's just too easy at this point. But if I had, we'll just use me as an example. Let's say I've got 143 million records. What do you think they're worth? What per record? What do you think the cost is?
Well, I mean, the most common figure you hear is between $1 to $2 record. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Makes sense, except it's not. It's about 40 cents a record for fulls. And fulls contains your name, your address, social security number, your birthday, phone numbers, and maybe a smattering of additional detail.
I'm not sure how I feel about being that cheap.
It's kind of insulting, but when you consider the economics and the fact that even though a criminal market is, criminal, it's still a market. Yeah. So there is supply and demand for them. And when records get flooded and you just flood the market with all this data, right, the price drops exponentially. I mean, give you an example. I saw. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. I saw an ad where this Russian guy was selling 340,000 fulls. Okay. And he was selling them for $300.
That's it?
Yes.
Wow.
So what's that per record?
34 cents?
There you go. And that just, I mean, there you go. I mean, the look on your face. I mean, you're wearing the same look I did, I mean, on the low end, the Equifax records would be worth about $57.2 million. On the up end, they're going to be worth about $143. But the problem with those guesstimates is the fact that nobody's selling individual records. In fact, right, if you just want like 10 fulls, you're probably going to get those for free from a seller who's just going to dump things off on you.
Right.
And if you're buying them in bulk. So the other half of the research I was doing after I figured out, where the cost center was on the Equifax stuff was what you can do with that. See, a lot of times what you hear doesn't really jive up with the reality of a criminal market. So can I take these fulls and try to commit credit card fraud? Absolutely. What are my odds of success? Kind of hard, because all the fraud stuff at the bank these days makes credit fraud just, well, actually damn near impossible in some cases.
I'm actually really happy to see how on top of things banks are. I mean, they call, they follow up. So yep, the fraud departments are definitely doing a great job with that.
Yep. But it still happens, and it's still a risk. So that's one type of way this data can be abused. Lately, the common trend is to actually take these fulls and then try to translate them into tax equivalency so that I can file tax returns and other things. Sometimes these fulls are used for human trafficking. You'll see them given to fake passports to bring people in and out of a given country or port. Sometimes you'll see them just sold to bypass immigration and things like that. There's a number of different ways this data can be used. I'm still trying to figure out the most common ones, and that'll actually be part of a story I'm going to be running later in the future.
Okay. I'm not sure how I feel about being that cheap, but then it actually makes sense from an economic standpoint. But
it's kind of insulting. It really is. Like, I'm worth more than $1, damn it.
Well, because a lot of it is, because it's so cheap, it actually makes it more likely for things to be dumped, things to be distributed more. If it was expensive, you kind of think, oh, hey, maybe criminals won't want to pay for it. But that's not the case. So it actually makes the risk even higher. So since we are talking about Equifax, we're not going to quite dump on them, but I do want to move on to the next topic about incident response. I mean, we talk about how you have to recover, how you detect, how you communicate, and I think it's pretty established that Equifax did an exceptionally bad job. Now, I mean, I don't know if you saw the interim CEO posted an apology to Americans in the Wall Street Journal. And his basic thing was, yeah, we should have had a better call center staff. We should have had, a better website. And I feel like he's missing the point. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is incident response that we should have seen?
I would have liked to have seen quicker reactions. I mean, if you look at the timeline of what was known and when, I don't understand why it took so long to get to where they are now. And I will say the way they handled disclosure originally was a big problem for me.
Wasn't there something about how the fact that they registered the domain could have been
susceptible to phishing? Exactly. It's a dumpster fire. And I don't understand. So I recognize crisis PR when I see it. Right. This whole "Dear America, we're so sorry" in the Wall Street Journal, pure play crisis PR. That's exactly what that is. It's trying to get get past the situation at hand and move forward. I understand that. What I don't understand is, all of these gaps between detection and what appears to be recovery and stuff like that. And so, I mean, on one hand, I want to just slam them and say, how could you? Why is it taking so long and things like this? On the other hand, I'm not in their shoes, so I don't know if I should judge, because what if there was something like horribly wrong on the inside that just none of us know about? So like there was like a really big process problem or something like that.
Right.
And something slowed them down. I mean, then it would be unfair, not to the executives, but unfair to the actual trench workers.
Exactly.
Those who
they were working
to
hard. You think?
Well, see, another thing we don't know is, we're talking about web vulnerabilities and things like this and all these extras. Well, why weren't they patched and recognized ahead of time, detected ahead of time? And the thing was, what if they were? What if they were, and there was a policy problem in place inside that company that prevented the trench workers from actually going to do their jobs and making sure this stuff's done?
Exactly.
And we don't know. And I think that's a problem. I think I would very much like to have answers to those questions. I want to know more than what they're just leaking out to save face with the investors. I want to know what lessons we have here, because Equifax serves as a perfect example that it will, not it can, it will happen to you.
Yeah.
They are a massive enterprise with scale, and they got popped like any other mom and pop brick and mortar shop. I mean, they got just completely destroyed. Their most valuable asset taken from them. All
and
because
I mean, it's not even a situation where they could say that, oh, this was a very sophisticated, something they couldn't have foreseen. We're outside, we're like, this is an easy, basic problem. But we don't, like you said, we don't know what happened inside.
Yeah, it goes right back to what we were just talking about. It's about the basics. And the thing is, when the basics can't be done, like when you can't patch a server or something immediately, that's when you have compensating controls. Well, where were they? What were they?
Exactly.
Equifax won't say. So then what's your excuse? Why didn't you do this? I mean, security is never as simple as patch and forget. And
Right.
I'll never advocate that, downloading a patch would have solved this problem. It absolutely would not.
There's testing, there is verification, there is policy. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than just, okay, hit update.
Yep. I think the easiest way to branch out on this story and to close it off was when I got back from Derby County. I was reading the news and I saw that the CEO was resigning.
Yeah.
And the CEO is walking away with like $8.3 million in a pension or something, or like $18 million in a pension.
Oh, because it's a retirement as opposed to firing?
Yeah, exactly. So, you get this thing. And I couldn't help but notice that was like 13 cents per record. But bum. Think about it. Take his pension. Look at about 13 cents a record.
We are worth even less to the CEO than we were to the criminals.
I didn't say that. I was damn sure thinking it, though.
There goes the entire good feeling I had about myself and my self-worth here today.
At this point, I think what I'll do is just walk around and put all the basic fulls on a business card and just hand it out to people. At least that way, I mean, it'll just be out there and I don't have to worry about this stuff anymore.
So one thing I wanted to actually talk about, especially what you were saying about why it took so long, and I'm going to try to maybe not defend Equifax, but kind of think about it from the people in the trenches. I mean, a lot of time investigations take a while. And I know with almost every data breach, it's why did it take so long? Why didn't you guys tell us as soon as you found out? And I'm actually on the side of you don't want to notify immediately. You actually want that time to investigate.
Yeah, that's why I want to know what was going on inside. If there was a cause for this delay, and it was just a lack of resources during IR, the overall investigation, then, my follow-up question is why didn't you have those resources?
Well, yeah.
You're a billion-dollar company, a multi-hundred billion dollar. Why?
Didn't Mandiant get called in like weeks after the initial discovery? It wasn't immediate.
I think so.
There was a significant time gap.
I don't know the full timeline on that. No, I can't find anybody to confirm anything that's swirling in like the InfoSec rumor mill or being passively reported in the news. When I find confirmation, I'll write about it. But until then, it's all still up in the air. And I mean, if they waited weeks to bring in an outside contractor to help with IR, why? What's the delay? Exactly. What did your team need before they can come in? Right. Why were we holding on this? And again, if it's a lack of resources,
that's a little scary when you have such a big company. Yeah, why is there a lack of resources?
And a lot of times, and it's sad to say this, but a lot of times security is not the biggest piece of the IT pie when it comes to budgets. IT still gets a decent chunk, but not as much as some of the other departments. But at the same time, security is often just a sliver within IT's budget. Yeah. And so, that's just the way it is. And then again, when your most critical asset is walking out the door, where's your budget now?
Well, you know that the next person who goes in there and says, hi, I need a bigger security budget, they're most likely going to get whatever they ask for.
Which is total crap. Why do you get budget after something horrible happens? What is the reason behind that? That frustrates me so much because it's absolutely true. If you want budgeting for your security program, get hacked. That's the easiest way to. That's the way to make things happen. It seems, and that's just it's backwards. It
so
makes
that's
no
not
sense
actual
to me.
advice. We're not advocating being hacked, no matter what Steve just said.
So I don't want you to get hacked, but if you do, call me. Let me know. I mean, I'm just saying.
So God. I think both of us are a little depressed now talking about the present and what's been happening. Let's try to cheer ourselves up a little bit.
Did I tell you about my friend Trevor from DerbyCon? No, I'm just kidding. We won't talk about Trevor. Trevor, just search CSO online for Trevor. You'll understand. Trevor and DerbyCon. You'll get it. But the story makes her cringe, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Thank you. Although that's a very positive note to move on. So, I mean, while you were at DerbyCon, I mean, everyone's talking about the iPhone and facial ID, and now we're talking about facial recognition. So it's like, hey, it looks like we're in the world of biometrics. And frankly, I'm not wild about it. I'm not wild about suddenly my face or my finger being the primary authentication. I don't know if you agree with me.
I think I'm just jaded at this point because I don't care.
What do you mean you don't care?
I can hear my dogs barking. They're
yeah,
in the other room.
I think your dog disagrees with you, too.
Yeah. What's the matter, baby? Has Daddy got a bad opinion? But no, it's funny because when I think about like all of the stuff with the facial ID, the fingerprinting and stuff like this, I've literally had my data compromised in so many different breaches now that do you need my face? Fine. Here, snap a selfie. Have it. I'm okay with it now because I'm just over it. Maybe it's breach fatigue, but at the same time, I do realize that there is a risk in privacy. I don't fully understand the mechanics behind some of these systems that are coming out. Like, I think it was the Samsung phone had where, like, if I just held up a nice little photo of you, it would unlock the device.
Yeah, it gets fooled by photos. The Apple one supposedly doesn't, but the Samsung one can be fooled.
So the Apple one, if I'm not mistaken, it reads like pivot points in your face, like
it's
a little
like several points, and then it's also using some kind of a machine learning algorithm so that, depending on time of day, it knows how the shadows reflect, and it just uses all these things so that it's not a static knowledge, it's an evolving knowledge of what your face looks like.
So what happens if I make a 3D printed mask and hold it at distance for forced perspective and then put it in front of your phone?
Supposedly it's not going to succeed because of the way your skin absorbs light. But again, this is what Apple is just saying. None of us have seen it in place. I'm actually curious what happens when I put makeup on. Is that going to change? Because I know that there are times when I put makeup on and then when I don't, I look totally different.
You know what? Go figure. It's probably because I don't wear makeup. I never actually considered that, but that's a good point. What does happen? Not just makeup, but what if you've had surgery? Right. What if you've had, some sort of a skin condition, like a rash or something like that, and you've got to wear all the cream and medicine on your face, what happens?
Yeah.
Are you absorbing light differently at that point? I mean, how does that impact what's going on? Now, I
From
would
a
assume
product
Apple's
design
done some
standpoint,
tests,
I
but
wonder how you test for that. Like, hey,
I have
employees, we
no
need people
idea.
who
Yeah.
have like scars. Like, how do you even test that in product design? So,
I have no idea. And the more I think about it, the more baffling it gets to me, because somebody somewhere has had to test it. That's someone I'd like to interview. Tell me about your job. Another thing that really gets me about, the way this stuff is playing out is I've heard a lot of talk about, like there's risk to protesters and things like this. And
right.
I absolutely agree. There are. But at the same time, if you're protesting something, like a government or something, why are you using an iPhone? Why are you walking around with a phone?
Well, shouldn't you be doing an iPhone? I thought the entire phone is better than Android.
iPhones are secure. If you need a phone, yes, get the iPhone. But I'm just thinking, if you're doing some stuff that's inherently risky to your life because you're doing stuff like this, that phone's the least of your concerns. The face is the least of your concerns right now.
Especially when half the places, all those cameras, you're already being photographed at those places anyway.
Well, see, the thing that really bugs me about that is the fact that now, to whereas the police would have to force you to put your fingerprint on the phone or force you to enter a password, if I'm following this correctly, and I could be completely wrong here, all they got to do is hold that phone up to your face. I don't like that at all.
No.
That's where I see like the risk to protesters and other things, because now if you get rounded up and you're just being held there and the cop holds the phone up to your face, what goes on?
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, but based on past precedent, it really does seem like holding the phone up to your face is not going to be protected. Like, you can't be like, no, you can't use my face.
I think it might be eventually, but you're like me, or like you. I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like the way that feels.
Yeah.
Security is very much a feeling at times, and when it comes to this, the feeling for me is no. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But we'll have to play it out.
We'll play it out, Once the new phones come on, more people start using it, testing it. I think we're going to get a better feel for whether or not this is the direction we want the world moving to. Might as well try it. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. On our next show, we're going to be talking about cool tools. We're going to be talking about phishing and a couple other things. So remember, kids, the salted in Salted Hash is what you know.